Today we are going to start something that we have never done before. We are going to make some prints. You can see this is a relief print here, this one. And what I did was I drew my design onto my little styrofoam printing plate, and then I use a brayer. You ink your brayer really well with, we're going to be using acrylic paint. And then you roll your paint on, put your paper on, peel it off, and what you're left with then are these prints. So these are just a few that I was kind of playing around with, trying to figure out what kind of materials we're going to use, how we're going to do it. So today the first step is going to be making our printing plate. Okay, and you can see that one was based on just some sketches that I did here in this book. You can see I worked from a couple different sketchbooks. Here's some. But now with this one, you can see I was kind of playing around with something that had a little bit more texture. I wanted to fill, one thing I didn't like was how much dead space there was in this printing plate, in this printing one. So I was kind of playing around. Of course, you can see this, the word here written backwards, because when you print, you get the mirror image. See? So, here's another one of my sketches. So, this is the thing about practicing. I wanted to show you tier 2. Here's one. Look at all these times that I was practicing, even just these little strokes here. It takes a lot of practice before you get good at any of this. So, but you can see I decided to go with a word this time. I wrote it very, very lightly in pencil first. What you don't want to do is make any kind of an impression until you're ready to, because that's how you get your design. And when you put the ink on, or when you put the paint on, the goal is that these lines stay white then, of course. Okay. Right. So the next thing I'm going to do is, so I've drawn it lightly in pencil. There's a little bit of texture here, not a lot. I'm going to start going over my lines lightly at first with my pen. I think I'm going to add on to this, and I went in a little bit, okay, but not too much. I'm going to go over it again. I'll have to go over it at least 2 times. The key is just to do it a little bit at a time, not to push really, really, really hard, because I don't want my pen to go all the way through. But I think I'm going to fill it in now, just with some designs, some of those kind of Zentangle-y kind of things, just for a little bit more interest. So you can see I just ended up using that same little triangle pattern. I just kind of kept on going through the whole thing. So now what I'm going to do is just go over my main lines here. I probably won't go over all of my triangles. Some will probably turn out better than others, but that's okay. I can always go back, and even after I pull a couple prints, and if I need to kind of make some lines deeper, I can. But I'm just going to slowly apply more pressure to make those lines deeper now. Okay, just going over my existing lines. And again, you will probably end up going over some of these lines 2 or 3 times. So take your time. Don't try to go all the way. Don't try to make it super, super thick at once. So again, this takes some time. Be patient. The next thing that you need to do after you finish making your printing plate, and again, you should be able to close your eyes and run your fingers over it and know what your design is. So some of my triangles may work, some of them may not, but we're going to first use markers to pull our first print. You need to use water-soluble markers. So you can use any kind of washable marker, so no permanent markers here. And you're going to color the whole thing. the whole thing. So take your time, go slowly, make sure you get some good coverage here. Okay, color the whole thing. Okay, so I've colored the whole thing in. Next thing I'm going to do is get my paper ready. I'm going to take a wet cloth and just kind of make it damp. Oh, probably needs a little bit more water. Doesn't need to be wet, but you do want it damp. So, ay. Okay, slightly nervous. Never done this before. Fingers crossed. Okay, now I'm going to carefully put my printing plate down. Give it a really good rub. So you don't want the printing plate to move when you are rubbing it. So just be careful that you hold it down while you're rubbing here. Woohoo! There goes my camera. Give it a nice, good massage. I'm shaking my whole desk here. All right. Rub all of the different sections. You can see I'm holding it down still, keeping it anchored. I don't want it moving around. Let's see if this worked. It might not have the first time. Let's see. Ooh, look at that. Ooh la la. Isn't that fun? Now the fun thing about marker prints is that I can turn around and color this whole thing again. Okay, I can use this as many times as I want. And what's nice is when we're done with these guys, you guys are going to take home your printing plates, and then you can do this as many times as you want at home. So next, we're going to ink it. I think I am going to end this one here just with this step. And then since this is as far as we're going to get in one session, and then next week we'll pick up with actually using our brayer, how to ink the brayer, and how to pull prints that way. But for this week, making the printing plate and then doing some marker prints.